Today, I want to take you back to one of the most famous and most tragic moments in British military history. The charge of the Light Brigade, immortalized by Alfred, Lord Tennyson in his 1854 poem, the historical moment, the event, a conflict of shifting alliance and brutal sieges. It was a war that saw the first during the Crimean War at the Battle of Balaclava. The Light Brigade were a cavalry unit, light armed, designed for scouting and quick strikes. They were not meant to take on heavy artillery, but a disastrous chain of miscommunication changed everything. A vague order was delivered to the cavalry commander, Lord Cardigan, instructing him to attack. Gun the guns. The problem was that the officer to the message failed to clarify which guns. Cardigan assumed it meant the Russian artillery directly ahead, positioned at the end of a long valley, with enemy guns also firing from both sides. The Light Brigade knew the order was flawed. They knew it was almost certainly fatal, but they also knew their duty. Tennyson's poetic response he wrote with a sense of urgency, as if the ink itself were charging across the page. Tennyson wrote his poem almost immediately after reading a newspaper report of the charge. He was writing tribute, a celebration of courage in the face of futility, with the famous line, "The fear is not to reason why, theirs but to do and die." In just a few words, he distills the Victorian ideal military duty, unquestioning discipline, heroic, the charge in the scene. 600 cavalrymen riding straight to a valley lined with Russian guns. In just a few words, he distills the Victorian ideal of military duty, unquestioning, discipline, heroic. The charge itself, imagine the scene. 600 cavalrymen's rhythm mimics the pounding of hooves short, driving lines that feel like a gallop. The poem becomes almost cinematic, pulling the reader into the chaos and bravery of the moment. Despite reaching the guns, the Light Brigade were forced to retreat. Of the roughly 670 men who charged, nearly half were killed, wounded, or captured. The charge of the Light Brigade endures because it represents a paradox at the heart of war, the nobility of individual courage set against the folly of human error. Tennyson doesn't blame the soldiers, he honors them. He turns a military blunder into a national symbol of bravery. The poem became a rallying cry, a reminder that heroism can exist even in the midst of incompetence. The phrase "the 600 has entered the lightship," obedience even in the midst of incursion. Tennyson's poem ensures that the Light Brigade, but for the valor with which they rode into it.